All right, welcome all. First topic on the agenda is from Matthew H. to discuss a tracker about usage log trimming. Take it away.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Casey. I've got my team here, so I'll let them kind of fill in the details of what we were looking at for this change, and we'll take it from
Um, so, so this issue is related to how usage logs are managed internally. Um, it has a two type of, basically it's capping the old maps, and it's managed by two types of keys. One is called keyed by time, another is called keyed by user. Key by time means it's the combination of epoch timestamp plus the user ID and optionally the bucket name. Key by user, of course, the other way around is basically starting with the user ID plus the epoch timestamp and optionally the bucket name. The original implementation made an implicit assumption that those two type of logs do not mix together. That means if you iterate through those key by time logs, you are not supposed to encounter the key by user logs. So that when you search, say, all the logs between two timestamps, you should encounter all those keyed by time logs. And when you iterate it through, you can, if you encounter a log saying epoch time is after the end timestamp, then the iteration should stop. However, based on the current design of the key format, it's possible that those keyed by user logs actually located within among those key by time logs. For example, if when the user ID starts with the digit 0, because the timestamp itself is presented as a 0 plus the 11 digits of the epoch timestamp. So if a username starting with 0, say if username is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like a timestamp. So internally, the old map is actually located among those key by time logs. When you iterate through two timestamps, you could end up encounter those logs. And that create a problem because if these logs present epoch time stamp that is after the presented end timestamp, that iteration will stop. And that is the wrong decision because there still could be the key by time logs that is after that has the epoch timestamp that is much earlier. And because of this issue, it's causing the trim not being able to clean up all the logs that are intended to be cleaned up. And over the time, you could end up causing the accumulation of those logs. In our case, we have seen a single shard, usage shard contains about 12 million logs. And that causes a problem whenever you want to migrate that particular object. So the solution I want to present is that either we have to change the format of the keys so that we can retain most of the logics, which still has that implicit assumption that those two types of logs don't mingle together. Or if we don't change the format, we have to change the logic. That means the logic cannot make such assumption. It has to basically be prepared to handle those keyed by user logs while it's iterating through based on the timestamp. I think the second approach is being messier because the data structure itself is messier and requires a messier logic to deal with it. So that's why my solution is to propose a change of the format and of those so-called keyed by user logs. And the format changes are fairly simple. If the username starting with a digit 0, then I will put the prefix. I think using actually any character is sufficient as long as not a digit. But changing of the format introduced another problem, which is how do we deal with the transition? When the old keys and new keys coexist. But internally we did a fix and test it out. seems to be working well. It does the we'll be able to cope with both old keys and new keys, but the fix itself is more complex than the original anticipated. So, but that's basically the idea. I was wondering whether such a format change will be a problem for presenting that fix to the upstream, or we want to explore alternative solutions there. Did I just confuse everyone?
I followed. I don't think that there is a lot of experience with this usage log functionality in the team. I think generally if we make changes, we try to handle backward compatibility. But I guess I'm not sure exactly what the side effects would be.
The solution I'm proposing is to immediately starting to use the new format while still be able to handle the old format. So basically, this fix anticipated existence of both type of keys. But that particular handling is guarded by a newly introduced confusion option, so that later on, if the system no longer has any old keys, you can mark that option to be off, so that it does not incur the performance penalty, because you have to deal with two types of keys. So in this way, the fix is immediate right away, and also the transition is also immediate right away, until later on we decided not to, basically it's safe to turn off that transition logic. So ideally, should be largely invisible to the users, unless users well, except that they probably want to mark that option to be off if they re-examine their cluster and determine that the old key is no longer there. That means the release node may be a little bit complex in the sense that it has to explain all these steps and what they should be looking for.
So this config option for the transition, what exactly does that change? Is it just how we list keys?
It affects both the when they iterate the keys, it affects the mostly when you try to read the usage logs and when you trim the usage logs. They also affect how you add the usage to existing logs, because it needs to make sure that there's only one types of keys exist for the same log. Because you don't want to end up usage to be spread into different logs when you actually collect them together, causing the counting to be inaccurate. Like some kind of double counting.
When you say keys get duplicated, is that within the same shard, or is
within the same shard? For example, if during that one particular hour, the OSD is upgraded, start using the new version which has this fix, then we'll start using the new key format. Of course, when the new usage report comes in, you end up accumulating the same log because it belongs to the same epoch. Usually, if you accumulate the usage in the timely hourly fashion, then yeah, if as long as the upgrade is within an hour, you could end up into this situation. So when the new usage report comes in, the upgraded OSD will actually generate the log and save into the usage shard using the new key format. But if old keys, the logs with the old key exist, that will be deleted. because if the old logs is not deleted, that means that we'll have two logs, and they have a usage overlap in between, because each log contains the complete usage report within an hour. As long as they have a timestamp overlap, that means there could be a overlapped usage reported in the log record. But these are the extra detail. I'm not sure if it's very critical at the moment. I think the biggest question we had internally, when we try to see whether we should present that to the upstream, is one, we're introducing a format change. If it's not the biggest problem, then probably this solution is maybe worthwhile pushing to the upstream. The second is that after we're changing the format, we have presented the transition phase, the steps. I'm not sure that steps is okay with it to the upstream. I hope this is this is actually the simplest one I can come up with. I try not to make the transition to be too intrusive. For example, require customer to do a cleanup work, sweep the entire cluster to convert every logs to the new format, that sort of thing. And also the transition should be not disrupting the existing counting, because our company is actually using the usage log for building purpose. So we don't want to, especially double counting the customer, which may be causing problems.
Yeah, agreed. So just to clarify, when you have this transition config option on, it deletes the old versions so that you don't get double counting. Is that true?
Right. If old version exists. But that means the logic always anticipate that there could be possibility that old key exists. So always attempt to delete the old one if after it's just add the log with the new keys. But that means there's some kind of a performance penalty there.
Yeah, got it.
And also with this solution, if a cluster never uses a username that starts with digit 0, you can turn that transition off immediately, because it doesn't have the problem in the beginning anyway.
Is it really only digit 0 that's affected, not other initial digits?
Now other digits. Well, for example, if digit 0 is the simplest marker to indicate the potentiality of the problem. To be explicit, of course, it needs to be somewhat be able to sneak itself into those logs in the prefix by the timestamp. So the username could look like, for example, 012, for example, is very likely a candidate, because if you do a trimming from the time 0 to a current timestamp, you will have the timestamp look like all zeros as a start prefix, and the end prefix will be 017 something. Anything in between, if the usage log looks like that, then it's likely to be within those key by time logs. And I'm using a digit 0 as the simplest, because I don't want to complicate the logic too much. And it usually happens when people use the UUID, for example, as the user ID. It's very likely. If it's just regular folks running their own cluster, then it's probably very less likely. Anyway, I hope this solution is not has the obvious turnoffs, so that we can present that the fix to the upstream.
The design sounds reasonable to me. I, I would just say that we would need to document clearly how to manage this this config option when to turn it on and off.
Yeah. And it'll be on by default because we should anticipate the possibility that the transition is needed. And then there should be only one step that is turned off later on.
This config option, does it modify behavior in RGW or only in CLS on the OSD?
Only CRS. I think actually the change is only within the CRS RGW.cc, that particular file.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good.
Any other thoughts?
Is there a PR posted? I mean, it would be good to read it.
Well, we'll get a PR posted and bring it up to you and Casey, Matt.
Okay, everyone's welcome to look at it, but yeah, it sounds like we appreciate it. We've been internally used usage enough. I'm glad it's interesting and evidence that it's valuable.
Yeah, that's what we discovered as well. And we're hitting large OMAP warnings due to this. So this is something that's come up, and I'm a little surprised.
If this
other
issue is
customers.
addressed, well, this isn't enough use of it, yeah. But you're pretty confident that if this solution, if this change is made, that there's not other reasons why large OMAP is going to happen to the general workflows will tend to.
Well, usage log itself requires a manual cleanup. Of course, if you don't do cleanup periodically, then yeah, you still have that problem.
But if you keep it clean, if you keep continuing cleaning up, is there sharding here and is it fixed?
It has a sharding, but I don't know how the sharding is only shard to like 32 shards.
It's just a fixed thing. So you have a total number of users that can have usage that is basically that number times 30, times 200,000 or something.
Yeah, and in general, it shouldn't cause any problems because even in our clusters, once we did the cleanup, each shard only contains about 200 to 300,000 records there. So
that's heading towards the large OMAP threshold.
Right, but compared to 12 million, which is ridiculously large.
Well, agreed, but I mean, just bringing this up because if we're investing in usage, it may have other technical debt.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, sounds like you've got trimming working reasonably, but like if in a cluster like twice the size, 10 times the size, the limits are going to be painful.
Mm-hmm. And also one more thing about this fix, it still does not fix the problem with the trimming if old key exists, because you cannot tell the difference between those keyed by time logs and keyed by user logs, at least not reliably, because we almost put no restriction on what kind of characters user ID can take. And because of that, internally we're using some kind of a clever trick by specifying the proper start time, so that we can try to skip those key by user logs to avoid this premature termination of the iteration. That helps clean up the existing logs that have been lingering for more than a year. However, but this solution will help prevent future problems. I'm done.
Yeah, so if there's no objections, we'll put together that PR and we can move on with the rest of the meeting agenda.
Thanks. Yeah, having the code visible, I think, would help a lot, because I'm not sure that we understand how things work currently, and so seeing the exact changes would help a lot. But so far, I think you're on the right track.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it.
All right, let's move on. Matt has 3 topics coming up. First on object manifest.
Yeah, this is just to get to ask about what, I don't want, maybe because this could be a long discussion, but maybe it's to figure out if there's something if we wanted to discuss what we can be doing to narrow down the issues affecting manifest that showed up with the recent change to conditional puts. But then, I mean, I think we had a kind of I think in our downstream meeting, which I think I pasted this before that. Daniel had made some proposal on what to do things. So if this is provisionally resolved, we can skip it.
I've spent the morning looking at this, and I'm starting to get some idea of what's going on. So I think maybe I can root cause it. Maybe not today. I have a dentist appointment this afternoon, but like by tomorrow, we'll see.
I think it's pretty satisfying. So okay, fair enough.
So we'll hold off on merging the workaround PR until I've completed my investigation.
Sounds great. And in the meantime, if this GC bug is blocking anybody else's testing, the PR is linked in the agenda here. You can use that workaround for testing in the meantime. All right, next topic, current state of the RGW suite.
Maybe it's the same as Adam's. I don't really know. It's just we were just talking about just general topics here, and then apparently it's got a lot. People are having trouble with false positives, and that may be one of the reasons why some stuff got through. Adam, feel free to supersede this heading if Chris is more concrete.
All right. So, question 1. Casey, you mentioned that you asked someone, I forget who, to do a patch, to do a push to S3 tests to mark many of the things that fail under DB store. Who was that? Do you know if the patch is still around? Or should I do it? Like, I can just look at the base run and put one together.
We're tracking the DB store failures in 72094. That
Okay.
we had assigned that to Ali Masarwa, who merged the latest regressions there, but
Okay.
haven't had a response there. So if you want to take it over, feel free to reassign.
Sure. What tracker was that? Actually, just ping it, just message it to me in Slack later. Secondly, do we have an idea of what we want to do with the Valgrind issue? We do not, as far as I'm aware, immediately have a much idea what's going on apart from that it has something to do with RELs. Do we want to try suppressing it and then maybe take the suppression out in a month and take another crack at it while we deal with some of our other problems? Or do we want to like sit down and try to come up with a plan to deal with it right now? I sort of leaned toward suppress it for now, then come back in 2 months and sit down, try to come up with a deal with it? Or if we start seeing more issues, that might give us an idea, but I don't lean that way very strongly.
So these Valgrind issues only show up in the notification subsuite for now, right? We addressed the other ones.
I'm not sure. I thought we did have Valgrind issues showing up elsewhere. Didn't maybe I'm mistaken. I thought they did. I thought the start tick showed up at a lot of them. Let me pull up a suite.
So they showed up initially in the notification subsuite,
Yeah.
and then they showed up again generally. I thought it was you that fixed the one that was affecting all suites.
I did fix that one. Like, there was one that was affecting all suites, but we still have the start tick one. And I think the start tick one is on all suites, but maybe I'm mistaken.
My understanding is that only the notifications and multi-site suites use realms at all.
Okay. And is the multi-site suite affected?
We have never gotten clean enough to re-enable Valgrind for multi-site.
Oh, all right.
So
Never mind
it's
then.
not causing failures there.
So just a couple of comments on that one. First of all, in recent runs, I don't know what changed, but I still see Valgrind issues in notifications, but now a completely different Valgrind issue. That seems completely unrelated to anything I've seen so far. I mean, it's in the same kind of area of the objector, but something very different. And another comment I want to make is that because it started appearing at some point, I think it should be possible to bisect the issue, because I can see the exact issue running locally, which means that the cycle of doing the git bisect and you don't need to run any test. You just run vstart with a realm, and you see the problem when you take it down. So it's really quick. So I think if somebody just want to use the RGW test multi-site kind of wrapper around vstart that creates a realm, and use the git mechanism to find the faulty commit, it should be possible to do.
Yuval, would you like to do that, or would you like someone else to do that?
I mean, I have currently, sorry, I have other priorities, but if nobody is going to do that for a while, then maybe I'll have time later on to do that.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. We know what to do. We have a plan. Maybe I'll pick it up myself later. I don't know. Someone will, but I might ask you for help with that at some point.
Okay, sure.
And Casey, is there anything else long-standing that we really need to deal with that you're aware of? Those are the two that are the biggest on the top of my head. The other ones that I'm aware of are dedupe, which we don't really care about that much, and I know there's some D4N stuff, but I think Preetha has that enhanced.
There is another very strange, we're seeing failures from random CLS tests.
Interesting.
I was looking at logs, and it turns out that the tests are hanging from 3 hours and getting killed by timeouts.
Yeah, this is the CLS ref count erasure coding test that is probably running against a non-erasure coded Ceph cluster. That's what's happened with this test when you're doing this.
Oh, can we just fix that with the YAML?
So the trackers that I listed are showing failures in CLS log, CLS two-phase commit queue, CLS RGW GC. So it's
So those are different
definitely not
issues.
just one.
So those are different issues. I specifically looked at this one because it popped up in one of the dedupe PRs, and I've investigated it, and I saw that it's happening locally on my setup because I don't have an EC pool for the OSD. The other ones might be other issues. I have no idea.
Okay, well, those are the ones that we're tracking on main. Adam, you know, Ilya had that recent Mon client fix, which I think was like a deadlock. So I'm hoping that maybe on latest main this goes away, but I haven't seen yet.
I hope so. I doubt it, but I hope so. It would be very nice if that were the case. I'm surprised that the Rados test didn't pick up the deadlock, though. But either way, we should be pulling in the RBD test. You're right. All right. Are those the three? So those are the three main vectors. I'll take the DB store. We know what to do with Valgrind whenever anyone has the time to do it. Casey, can you, if the fix doesn't get rid of this, would you be willing to at least take another look at the CLS thing? And I don't know, even if you don't fix it, just follow up on it and see what happened?
Yes, certainly.
All right, thank you. Excellent. All right, thank you.
Okay, and just kind of a general procedural thing. We do try to track all of the failures showing up in Toothology as urgent priority on our bug queue. So if you're seeing failures in your results that you don't recognize, check there first. And you can update those trackers with the information from your failures. We see those every Thursday for the bug scrub. I would invite more people to attend that if they're interested in keeping up and helping out. Any other thoughts on the subject of keeping the RGW suite green?
I don't think so off the top of my head, unless anyone else has any.
All right, let's move on. Last on the agenda, Matt and Yuval about RGW stabilization for major releases.
I think we're over time. Maybe we can move this to next week. I don't know. What we were talking about was things. Was what happens, but what the current upstream does, just within RGW specifically to stabilize, so we can be more clear about the difference between, I guess, the unstable branch, the Ceph main branch, and those releases. There's been some upstream conversation about regressions against main and how dangerous those are. I don't think they really are, but we also want to make sure that we know that those are caught before they become stable, if not earlier.
Yeah, I mean, since we don't have any users of the main branch, I think all of our stabilization efforts are focused on when we cut major releases. And we often merge big features, knowing that there's chance of regression as long as there's, you know, a few months before we have to cut a release to shake out all of the issues with it. I guess I would mention Adam's data log work, which was massive, that
Yep.
had some bugs that he's stabilized for Tentacle. To me, it seems the alternative would have been to block the merge of that until we had some definition of stable, but it's hard to know what that is.
Also, I think fundamentally
Does that
main
make
is
sense?
fundamentally main is our unstable branch. Either main is our unstable branch, or we need to get a new, or we need to have an explicit unstable branch, or we won't get any work done. Like, unless we have a collective unstable branch, we just won't get work done.
Yeah, I agree that main should be perceived as unstable. The question is, what is the gating or what is the process when we're trying to cut a stable branch? I mean, after we cut a stable branch, then the process is, you know, just put bug fixes and
Right.
and don't add new features. But the process of saying that something is stable, I'm not sure what it is.
Are you talking about feature freeze or something else?
Well, no, feature freeze doesn't make anything stable. Testing makes something.
I mean,
stable.
there's work. I mean, this was a way to recap maybe this. There's work performed by Yuri and by the PTLs, working with Yuri and other people to get some specific result right. I mean, we could at least audit what that is and decide if it needs more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in general, we rely on the RGW suite and Toothology for release validation, and so I think that's the best definition of stable that we currently have.
But
Although I would mention
this is not different than main, right? We merge a PR after the RGW test suite in tautology is passing, right? So in that sense, the stable branch is not more stable than the main.
Well, it kind of is, because in a sense, because we have different criteria for what put onto the stable branch. I mean, once we stabilize it. Okay, let me ask, what kind of stabilization criteria are people imagining?
Performance. When you say stability, you usually mean long runs at large scale, at high volume and high rate. This is what stability means.
I mean, I think we depend on the downstreams to stabilize the branches, right?
But that's not, I mean, this is an
somewhat,
upstream
but
meeting.
yeah, and the downstreams are often delayed far after the initial major release, right? One thing I was going to mention for multi-site is that we have started doing some scaled up multi-site testing to validate releases. Not sure where we are with Tentacle there, but that's just one example of additional testing outside of the RGW suite that we're trying to make part of the process. So if there's other performance or scale testing that people would like to formalize, I think that would be great.
I think that every feature, so to say that a release is stable, then all the features of the RGW should be tested at scale and at high performance. Otherwise, it's not. I mean, the only difference between the stable release and main is that in main we allow for some tests to fail, and in the stable release we do more effort trying to clean up all the failures. But it doesn't find rest conditions. It doesn't find leaks. I mean, all those things are not found there. They're found later on by customers, which is fine if they're using the main branch, because one of the point of the main branch is that users would take it and find the issues and then we'll make it better. And there's no guarantee on that. But if we're saying that Squid, for example, is stable, then there has to be something behind that.
Yeah. So I do think that scaled up testing is a good idea, but I think it needs, ideally it would be automated as part of a release process. I don't I don't know that pathology is a good place for that, especially if you're looking at performance closely.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with both things that you said. I think the little kind of plus of this would be that usually we don't have resources to do scale test or performance test, but if we're limiting this only to the stabilizing of the release, then this is a very infrequent process. I agree it has to be automated, but even if we lack resources usually, then we can maybe allocate the resources every couple of months when this is actually needed.
yeah, I think Shopa and Mark's multi-site testing basically works that way. They reserve some machines when they need them.
Yeah, but most of it is manual, and but I think for multi-site it's pretty simple because we just create large number of objects and make sure that they sync. But if you have to test each feature at that scale, I don't know. I think it will involve a lot of manual work. I don't think we have automation in place for that. QE has downstream QE definitely have been doing that. Maybe we could use their scripts and see how it goes for us.
Is there something similar for other teams? Like, is the core team doing that differently?
Well, also, the question that occurred to me when we talked about this earlier, and I think I thought of this before, is is there a is there a is there a DTL like role that has quality assurance people participating upstream? And would that be a thing the project should have?
I would say that Yuri is probably the closest to that, and I mean, mostly he's just coordinating all the testing for backport releases, not necessarily like planning initiatives to improve testing processes, just following the existing process.
So we have to have conversations. I mean, maybe that's a conversation we could have in CSE or with people that do this and see if there's, for example, our downstream QA folks would find some benefit in doing more of this upstream.
A few people like from downstream QE are involved doing some early testing, but I don't think that they do that for branches that aren't stable yet. Like if you want to test them tentacle, I don't think they're involved in that. But yeah, I think we would need dedicated resources just to test so many of our features.
So are there any action items we can take from this?
We could bring something up at CSC and ask the other teams if they have, what kind of release performance testing they have.
Okay. I think historically it was mostly Mark Nelson's performance work that went into releases, but I don't think it was really necessarily part of the release process itself, as in blocking releases for performance regressions.
That's true. Might be worth just asking Mark what he thinks about the whole issue tomorrow. Or at least get some idea of what's been going on. I don't know if you want to. I mean, I definitely don't necessarily want to do hard block on performance regressions, because sometimes you just need to use them more overhead. But it'd be nice to know about them.
Yeah, I think the first step is to establish some baseline, like from the previous release, for comparison, and without having even that, I think it's hard to do more.
Okay, well, thanks for discussing. I think we've gone over the original time window.
Well, we've got 10 minutes left.
Oh, Adam, I haven't been following all of your data log PRs, but there are a couple of them that I remember you had started working. Are they all complete? Because I want to get the system testing started for multi-site.
There is one more that I have to finish up. I'll split it into two. Basically, one of them is that there's one issue that fixes the problem. There's one issue that adds just adds a recover command to Rados GW and fixes uncharted listing. Currently, the other thing I'm fixing is a crash if you call notify when you don't actually have a watch, rather than giving you an error. But on reflection, there's no reason why I can't just make those two PRs. So I'll try to make the first one. So I'll just split out the first one and not worry about the other one. I'll worry about the other one. It's a legitimate bug to fix. I just don't have to fix it in this PR and hold it for that. So I will get that up quickly.
Okay, yeah. Could you just paste the PR here, or maybe on chat and follow up?
I don't have it pushed yet, but I will link it to you when I do.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I think these were some great discussion topics. Even if we didn't find answers for everything, just continue to noodle on them, and we can follow up in other calls.
Thank you.
Any final topics for today? All right. Thanks all. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.